Well, I was expecting an image. There it is. It went away, and now it's back. Welcome to live streaming on your television or your laptop or your iPad or your little teeny iPhone. We don't really...
or your watch. You can do it on your watch, too.
We don't really recognize...
or your Android. We don't
devices.
Yeah.
We only have one.
That's not a real
here.
phone, though. That's...
Welcome to the show.
So, it's
no
Bill,
judgment zone.
Bill, Wendy, and Jonathan with
That's
Carolina
right.
Capital Management. Don't forget, you can contact us at carolinahardmoney.com. If you want any information on borrowing, click on the borrower tab. If you want any information on how to invest in our fund, then click on the investor tab. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff.
All the cool stuff the kids are doing these days.
Also,
Yeah.
During the broadcast, if you have any questions for us or our guests, you can leave them in the chat as well.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So how's everybody going?
How's everybody going?
How are you going?
I am going to do.
Good Lord. All right. It's been a long week. I don't. If you're in our area, it's been raining for like 4 days
forever.
straight.
And we promise the show will get better.
That's right.
Just give us a couple minutes.
Well, we're in our second tropical storm of the and the season hasn't started yet.
That's true.
So Bertha is upon us,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad it's a girl.
They called her Bertha.
They called her Bertha.
Oh,
You know, well, what are you gonna do?
That reminds me of a song from the 70s. Never mind.
Yeah. Too funny.
Let's
Listen.
get this train.
Yeah. So I am so excited of who we have on today. Liz Faircloth is just a dynamo, and she's a chick. And she and another girl on Andresa. I'm going to try and not destroy her last name. Gildelli. Oh, I was close, wasn't I? I'm really good. Have started this just immense group called Investher, and it's
Invest her as in like.
That's right, Investher.
Clever.
But it's not just for chicks. There's a lot of guys that follow them too, which is probably because there are a lot of girls. But anyway, we'll find out about that. So we just really wanted to bring Liz on and have her share about Investher. They're getting ready to do a big summit, and I just want to promote that because I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of women in real estate. So Liz, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jonathan, for having me on. It's a pleasure.
We're really glad to have you here. So there's like a million questions that I'd like to ask you, but I guess we should kind of start at the beginning, which is
Take us to start at the end.
Which is how you doing? No. So how did you come up with Investher? What were you thinking?
Yeah, it's funny. We Andresa and I were both active, and we are still active investors, and we would be meeting together over coffee, and we were doing a few flips in Philadelphia at the time, and we also had a women's sort of mastermind group that we formed. And, we'd just be going back and forth with ideas and just supporting each other, right? Wendy, just, how we all need support in our circle and everything. And we just started talking about both of our passions for supporting women. And mine actually dates back to 20 years ago when I actually a social worker background. And I actually had a field placement with all women who were emotionally, physically, and mentally abused. And it really struck a chord with me that I wanted to help women. And it just, when I was 20 years old, and I actually started a business plan at that point, and I wanted to create an organization that did counseling services just for women. And then that went on the shelf. And 20 years later, fast forward, Andresa and I are chatting, and we're like, what if we did something that supported more women in this space? Because we were looking for something and we couldn't find anything. So like most people, right? If you can't find it, you got to maybe start something. So we said, why don't we start with a podcast where we just interview women investors? And I would kind of broach this to a few people that are in my circle. And I actually had a couple of guys say to me, you're probably going to run out of women to interview. I don't really know if there's that many women investors. And I said, I don't really think that'll be a problem. So,
Right.
And it hasn't been a problem. We're 112 episodes in, right? Wendy's was one of our guests on our show. So, it's interesting because I think it's not us versus we, but there's a lot of statistics out there that we want to actually change, not just for women, but for girls. Women outlive men 6 to 8 years, right? The chances of us outliving our partners are very high, and the need for financial resources will be there, or will be needed. The other key thing is that women, I think it's 40% invest less than men. And, but yet women control a lot of spending, right? In terms of those percentages. So we just really want to help. We wanted to create a space of women, like a circle and like a community where we could support each other, giving, getting, and also just feeling like, oh, wow, they've done it, right? I see a Wendy Scott, she's created this business with her brother, and like, wow, like the more we see women role models in the investing in the money space, the more other women have some permission to do it themselves.
Right.
And our mission is all about creating financial freedom, but also doing it in a balanced way. There's a lot of women who are wearing 18 million hats, especially now with everything happening, right? We have like 19 jobs, and men have a lot to do. And this was never meant to be an us versus them approach. I love men. I love my husband, but it was really meant to create a safe space for women, because you'll go to a lot of meetups, you'll go to a lot of events, and then you just sometimes just the only one there. And I've gotten it from men where, I'll go with my husband and they're like, oh, you're coming here with your husband? That's nice. I'm like, I actually got him interested in investing. I gave him Rich Dad, Poor Dad 15 years ago. So, but it's all good. And that's what we're up to, is just creating a safe space. So we have meetups around the country. We have 25 meetups around the country where women can go, and where they were doing it physically, now they're doing it virtually. And we have a Facebook community, and we're putting this summit together. So
that is really, really awesome. And I do want to talk more about that summit. Go ahead.
Interesting statistic on women basically being the head of the household when it comes to the finances in the household.
Yep.
And I do understand that there are a lot fewer women that invest than men. Do you have any personal feelings on why women are reluctant to be the investor in the family?
It's a really good question. I've thought about that philosophically, and then I've spoken to a lot of women about it, kind of in a, obviously in a realistic day-to-day kind of perspective. And, I think it's sometimes just conditioning, right? You think about society, and you think about, I have a little boy and a little girl. I have a 3-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy. And I have to watch myself, even just the things I say to my son and my daughter about just how I treat them, and just the systemic kind of things that we sometimes do in conditioning. I think realistically, women at the helm at the home, right? So there's a whole philosophical reason for that, and I think that's not changed. I wouldn't say enormously, but yet there's still a need for women to have a carve out of, I'm not working full time anymore. I'm leaving my job, and I want to do something on my own while I'm, kind of running everything. And then they look at investing. I think a lot of women I've spoken to, again, just totally generalization, but they are cautious, right? So they're careful, but that actually makes them great investors, to be honest with you. That's a huge thing. I know I'm much more cautious than my husband, and we've been investing for 15 years. I'm also more cautious though than him. So I think there's a lot of advantages, but yeah, I think somewhere along the way, whether it's messaging or money, or we look at our generational. I look at my mother. I look at my grandmother. They didn't do anything. My grandmother didn't even drive, right? My grandfather said, if you need to go anywhere, I'll take you.
Right.
So, then that's just completely, you think about that, and you think about handling money and handling the resources. What's that?
Yeah. I said, it's like slavery back then, and then our grandmother didn't drive either. She walked to the grocery store with a little cart. And I still have that cart that she pulled behind her, by the way.
They lived in the city.
Yeah. At Philadelphia.
Also,
yeah.
They were close to everything.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's imaging. I think there's a lot of societal pieces in that. And then it's just conditioning of our own families and our own role models. So if that role model shifts a little bit, I think then we can talk more about money, and we could talk more about investing. And a lot of women will say, well, I'm not good at math, and there's so many women that are great at math, they're firecrackers with math, and obviously, so that's just, I don't know. I think that's just sometimes an excuse too, for some people.
That's why we have
you can learn that,
That's what calculators are for.
That's right.
That's really interesting. You know, I think it's great with what you're accomplishing with this, with Investher. And I would, we were talking a little bit about the summit that you're putting on when we first started talking, before we started recording. And you said you have 100 people already signed up, and they're not all women, right?
A lot of them are, but yeah, I have to look at the attendee list. But yeah, there and there's some men that love our podcast. They're like, your podcast is awesome, and they can follow it. And there's men that come to our meetups, so we certainly welcome that. But obviously our purpose and our mission is to serve women.
That's exactly right. So get out of our way.
But yeah, no, the virtual summit, we were saying earlier too, Wendy, and you've been, we've connected. You were probably one of our first guests on our podcast, and we started the podcast and we started the community, and then we did meetups. So we've just been building our community organically and just serving and helping. And so many women would be asking us, like, when are you doing a summit? When are you doing a conference for Investher? We want to get together with these women. We're like, we'll do it. And then with everything happening with what we're up to in this world and the uncertainty and just things shifting, we're like, okay, we got to do something virtually now. We in some ways I have less time and, less help. But now more than ever, women, I feel like, need more and more education, more and more support, and more of a community. So that's what we're building. It's a day conference. And I'm excited because we're not just talking about real estate investing. We're also talking about self-care. We have an amazing speaker talking about self-care and mindset. We got 2 speakers talking about creative financing, because that's a big topic. You both know. Right. People can't get institutional lending. So the need for creatively financing all these opportunities that are in front of us, and that will be coming in front of us as this economy kind of, unwinds here, are going to be huge. So we have 2 women talking about that. And then we have a couple of women talking about business strategies. So it's real estate investing, business, and self-care. And we have our keynote is actually not from real estate at all. She's talking about, she's actually an owner of an equity fund, and she puts deals together with buying distressed businesses. So she's going to talk about like the macroeconomics and how you can relate those things to distressed property. So it's just every speaker we asked, they said yes. The sponsors we've been working with are like, yes, like everything has been coming together, which is really, really humbling. So we're working hard to put the best day together for these women.
That's awesome. I remember when we were at the Mid-Atlantic Summit.
Yeah.
And we had, I think, maybe an hour where we could all have lunch together, and we were going to have the group of women just get together.
Yeah.
And we started out with maybe 10 people in the circle, and then it grew and it grew and it grew, and we pretty much took over the room. It was amazing how many women showed up for that. It's just, I think when women are together like that, we're able to put our guard down a little bit. And not, we don't have to puff up when we're in mixed sex rooms. we don't have to worry about, are we as smart as the next guy, meaning guy.
In your case, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. It's really, it's just a great opportunity to be with other women and support it. And I love that you're doing stuff that's not just real estate, because it is about the whole person. Yeah. Because we're not just real estate investors. We're moms, we're wives. Yeah. We have so many other roles that we have to play and play well to be able to participate. So I'm so glad you're doing that. So tell us a little bit more about the event, when it is, how people can get enlisted, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's Friday, June 12th. It's from 8:30 to, I think, 5:30. And if you just go to the Real Estate Invest, HER.com, it's you can get just on the right-hand side of the homepage is Virtual Summit, and it'll go to the page where it talks a little more about the speakers we have and the agenda and all those good things. I think we have we want to make it really reasonable for women, so it's $47 for the whole day, and you get the recordings afterwards. So it's kind of really affordable. We're going to increase the price, I think, next Monday, but again, it's going to be, we're not like, it's not going to be like $1,000 or anything. It's just going to be a slightly higher kind of thing. So we really wanted to make it reasonable. We really wanted to just support as women as we could. And we didn't want money or pricing to be a reason women wouldn't attend.
Right.
Mhm.
So let me rephrase that for you. It's not cheap. It's affordable.
That's right.
So
It's a deal.
Your keynote speaker, I think, is going to have a lot of businesses to choose from here, unfortunately, going forward. There's going to be a lot on her plate to look through and be able to pick and choose.
That's right.
What she thinks is going to have the most growth after this. You guys are still doing fix and flips and buy and hold stuff in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So we, my husband and I we have one more fix and flip that we're selling, and we're it's like on the higher end of the market. So in New Jersey, so we're experiencing a little like, okay, we got to get this thing sold.
Yeah.
But our focus has been multifamily, and we're, we have a couple buildings in Pennsylvania. We haven't done a whole lot. We have properties in New Jersey, but just with everything, even before the coronavirus, we haven't done a ton of active purchasing in New Jersey anymore in a while. We're holding some and what have you, but yeah, it's a little bit of a different landscape. So we've done a lot more in the Southeast, and we're looking to buy more in North Carolina and Kentucky has been our focus. So, but yeah, we have one property where we have an agreement, but just in terms of inspections and things, it's a 77 unit. We're just holding out until we can kind of get things a little more, get people in there to inspect and all those sort of things. But yeah, multifamily has been more of our growth pattern, and we're focusing. Although I see some fix and flip opportunities in my town, I'm like, this is the perfect town to fix and flip. So who knows? Maybe I'm going to go back on my word, but I can't help it. I was running the other day, and I came home. I said, Matt, I saw 2 properties we could totally flip in this, and it's our town, so I know this town. There's no inventory. It's and I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for people from a real estate perspective, because people are they're leaving the cities, right? So the need for like nice homes in suburbia in good school districts has always been the case, but I think it's going to become even more so. I really believe that. I think so. I think there's an opportunity there, but
Yeah, we talk to a lot of folks in the multifamily sector, and I think the feeling is that you're going to see a lot more people moving towards single family, only because now they're working from home. They have kids and spouses, and they're all crammed into an apartment.
Just like you mentioned.
Space.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you still have fears about being so close to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So there's going to be opportunity in every market, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, especially multifamily in the Southeast, because a lot of people are just moving out of the Northeast because they want to go to work, and they're not allowing that right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
We are the other thing too. I think apartments are going to still do well because of the change in the employment situation. I mean, everybody was hoping everything would bounce back to exactly what it was, but it's not. It's a new normal, and. Well, it is.
Don't say that. I'm tired of hearing
unprecedented times.
But it is, and I'm I wish my crystal ball worked, but that broke in 2007.
Yeah.
So, I wish I knew what was going to go on, but we don't. The thing is you need to be flexible. You need to be ready to fit into whatever hole opens up. Just like you were saying, you weren't going to do any more fix and flip.
Yes.
You're running down the road. You see a couple that you want to jump on. You have to be able to make that shift.
Yeah. And be proactive, and I also saw, like, with our leasing for a couple of our buildings, our leasing and our occupancy has gone up really well through this whole situation, because we were on the forefront of like the virtual tours. Not because we're rocket scientists, but because we saw what was going on, and we're like, we're not going to wait. This is like, we got to start this now. So as soon as it happened, and so many of our competitors in our communities waited. So all the opportunities they were getting, we were getting. So, I think that has a lot to say about wherever you are and whatever kind of investing you're doing. How can you be proactive and just continually be proactive? You're not going to know what's going to happen. I wish I did too, but I know when we're proactive, things seem to be, a little more. We have a commercial building, and we're starting to have more and more tenants. these are small office users, but are telling us, especially in this building's in Trenton, telling us that, just not be able to make their rent and they're going to have to move out. So we're just going to get our heads together and go, which we were doing, like what creative, because there's going to be people looking for a small office when they could start obviously leaving their homes in Pennsylvania. Right. They don't need a 10,000 square foot building. Those days I think are gone. But they're going to certainly, maybe one or two people need a little nook to have an office. So again, it's like, how do you go with the times? Not everyone, so it's being nimble, and we're pretty nimble and pretty flexible, which I guess helps in this situation.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any more questions?
I have one. I have
just one.
I have two girls and another one on the way. And
special place in heaven for you, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you touched on societal norms and even branching from that, gender roles as seen by society. What advice would you give to parents who want to empower his girls to be entrepreneurial and to be investors and do those things?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it comes down to exposure. If I'm going to present my daughter, with a piggy bank or an Elsa doll, I probably will give her both of those or present both of those to her. Those are two different conversations, right? One, we're going to talk about Frozen, and the other one is, it's a good start, right? She's 3 years old, so it's exposure. I actually got the Cash Flow for Kids. It's a great board game. Robert Kiyosaki's.
I saw that board game, and I haven't bought it. It's in my inbox or my little cart on Amazon.
Yeah, and but I think it's exposure, and I need to continually ask myself, even just with my son too, but obviously my daughter, of like, what can I expose them to? What kind of camps can I expose them to? What kind of after school activities? Art and science, and not that, so it's just, I think, exposure. And I think there's little ways to do that. There's small ways to do that. I think for us, we just expose our kids like, hey, come with us to this job site. We're talking about taking a trip down to Kentucky because they haven't been to the building. And just talking more with my daughter and giving her that exposure, just like my son, is going to be huge and important. And having her come to these summits and seeing all these women, like that's to me, I think when girls see women doing these things that may be more male dominated, it gives them some sort of like opening that like, I could do that, or if they're into engineering or if they're into anything else that's construction. There's a woman that's going to be speaking at our conference. That's a woman-owned construction company. And she employs women and men, but she runs it. She's got the license. I mean, God, if I had a teenager, I'd be having her sit, and I was an attendee, I'd have that teenager wanting to meet her. Because that's just, you don't see that all the time, right?
Right.
So again, I think it's exposure, and I think it's in a small way, but giving them that opportunity to like see it and experience it, I think that's got to be the best way, in my opinion. But seeing it is critical. I think, I know for me, the more women I see speak and that are doing different things, I'm like, I saw a woman the other day and talking about her business growth. I'm like, it gave me permission. Oh, I don't have to stay small, right? We can get bigger. And it's just interesting that way in terms of permission, but exposure and just talking to them about it and playing games that give them that exposure is really helpful, I think.
Yeah. And you mentioned permission. It's interesting to me. It's like, men, I think, on average, feel more permission to make a mistake.
Yeah.
In real estate, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But you see, and women are more cautious by nature. I think a lot of them are, and it's almost like that societal fear to make a mistake. It's like somehow society remembers the mistake longer if you make it as opposed to if I make it.
Right.
And that's
it's a good point.
how to stamp that out and squash that, because I don't. My 7-year-old, I take her to properties with me, but I've lost money on real estate. She is too. But I've had this conversation with my wife. It's like you said, they feel less permission to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of generational as well.
Mm-hmm.
The baby boomers grew up, you can't make a mistake because it's going to ruin your life.
That's right. And you got to work there for 45 years before you can retire.
Get your pension and you're good.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And then when they came out with the first video game and then previous video games, how do
Miss
you learn?
Pac-Man.
How do you learn? You
Yeah.
learn by making mistakes. You don't read the entire manual. You just jump in.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to progress to the next level is by getting knocked off.
Yeah.
So they kind of have the younger folks that grew up in the video game world.
Mhm.
It's okay for them to make a mistake. It's
Yeah.
not really driving them down.
I
Yeah.
wonder what percentage males to females play video games. I imagine it's skewed in one direction.
You know, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Liz, I know you started off life in social work. How'd you get started in real estate investing in the first place?
It's really seems like such a natural progression, right? go to get your master's degree in social work and then read Rich Dad Poor Dad and build an investment company. Totally makes sense. So when I wanted to counsel people and at that point women and just help them and support them. And through that experience, I realized that I was like, I don't know if I want to do it in a traditional social work setting. I was more interested in doing it more like in a corporate setting where it was more coaching or team building. At that point, I was doing some speaking with my brother-in-law and I loved group facilitated workshops. Social work's tough. I mean, it was tough hearing these women's stories. And I said, I don't know if that's necessarily my path to be a direct social worker. So I said, let me try the corporate space. Plus, I had this kind of inner thought that I wanted to also start a business one day because I had started to read books. And I'm like, would I start my own practice? What kind of business would I start? So I ended up getting a job right out of graduate school, doing pretty much team building. And I was in there for 10 years doing corporate kind of team buildings and personality kind of assessments and those sort of things. At the same time, when I got that job, I met my husband, and he was an engineer, and we both read Rich Dad Poor Dad and went to a bunch of courses together and drew up a business plan. Things that 25-year-olds totally do. We definitely were not like everybody else, but anyway, that's a good thing, right?
Right.
But anyway, long story short, we ended up together, getting our first property in Philadelphia. It was a duplex. And I was working full time, same with him. And we had this big discussion when we got married in 2005 that, one of us needs to quit their job to take the investment business to another level and to take the chance. We weren't earning enough rental income to do that. Like all the smart things you probably should do. We just said, screw it. One of us is going to quit our job. Can we pay the mortgage and pay the bills with one of our salaries? And we long story short, bought a home that we can totally afford with one of us making money. And then we did that for many years. So I continued on with my work and helped him, and he kind of took the business on full time. And then I joined him, and I don't tell you our whole story, but yeah, it was an interesting progression. But we got introduced to it through just that, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and being like, we want to do something different with our lives and give a lot and support a lot of people. And we just started taking courses like, this is fascinating that you can actually, renovate properties and then have tenants, and how does that work? And just took a bunch of local RIA courses and got started that way.
Oh, so I'm glad you mentioned local RIA courses because we're always pushing the local RIAs,
Getting
Yeah.
plugged in.
networking groups,
Absolutely.
mastermind groups. I mean, we essentially met at I guess you call it a semi-mastermind event, which was the Mid-Atlantic Summit.
Yeah.
Almost all the speakers, all the sponsors, they're all in different mastermind
Yeah,
groups.
yeah.
And we're constantly pounding this on our show that you have to get with a group of people that have that abundance mentality, not the scarcity mentality,
Right,
to further you on that path. Right.
right.
Mhm.
And getting plugged into your summit that you're doing, people need to understand how important it is that for $47, that's ridiculous low. And
Not cheap.
and I really, I know it's the value there is going to be off the charts for what people will get out of that. And it's it's all about an investment in yourself and your own education. I remember when we joined our very first, like what we call a real mastermind, which is Collective Genius. We joined it in 2011, and it cost $15,000. Actually, it was $12,500, and I thought I was going to die putting out that much money.
Yeah.
To join a group. Now that's chump change to join a big mastermind group like that. And but what we got out of it changed everything for us. It's why we're here today, because of the people that we were introduced to. And that's what they can get from Investher, is the network that they're going to get. It's a tribe mentality. It's and it's all about encouraging each other, not being competitors. I think a lot of people are afraid of that when they're getting into a group. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so. And some women, quite honestly, that have either worked in companies with mostly women or have been part of groups, actually have had really negative experiences where it's actually more cutthroat. And I'm like, wow, I worked in, it's funny because I always wanted to start my own business. So I worked for a woman in the consulting work I did. And I said, I want to work for a woman. That was important to me. And all the people in our company were women. It just so happened, and we had a great camaraderie. I've always had good camaraderie with women. I've never had that environment, but a lot of women have. And sometimes I'll connect with ladies that are leading our meetups or whatever it is. And they're like, God, this is such a breath of fresh air, because I have been part of other organizations and it's not like this. Because you have women who are just jumping in, who have 1,000 properties, and you have women who are literally just starting out, and everyone's supporting each other. And that was really the type of environment we've wanted to create. And then we're just taking that to another level where, to your point, a lot of women will say, well, do you do coaching? Do you do this? And you have to kind of come to get a sense of, what do you want to create? What are we creating? And we're putting a membership together. That's what we really wanted to create. But it's going to be more of, like you're saying, it's like, you want to be around people who are like you, but also are a few steps ahead of you, obviously, because you can learn so much from them, and you can give and you can get. And I think there's something about that. And some people are like, well, I'm like, there's so many things I don't know. There's so many things I need help with. I mean, I knew certain things about in certain ways, and other things I need to grow. And we all could probably, admit that. If you can't, then I don't know. That's a tough one, but I admit it all the time. I'm like, I don't know anything about this topic, so.
Yeah. You don't want to be in a group where you have the same people doing all the giving and not receiving, because it's just as important for them to get as it is to give. And it just elevates everyone. And it just, my game is been elevated, not just from the business side of things, but personally as well.
Oh yeah.
Health, education, being closer to God, all that stuff has been helped along the way by other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to a woman the other day, and she's putting together a mastermind, and I'm part of one. And I said to her, I need to level up too. I need to really be part of something else too. And in addition to what I'm doing, just, I'm really committed to supporting women, and I love it. And it's a passion that has now turned into a business as well, but it's just been a passion for 20 years. But as you give, you need to also get the support you need. And sometimes as women, we're giving and giving. All people are giving and giving and giving, but you got to take care of yourself too, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to give to anyone. So I just had that realization the last couple of weeks, and I said, we're really growing our business, growing this thing. We're actually, which is awesome. It's just like, I also need the help and support so I can keep growing. That's just the way it is. So.
Well, I think that's it's kind of a female thing. It's in our genes to, we're the nurturers. So it's natural for us to constantly give and give and give. And, you're right. You do need to get fed and be renewed. And what better way to do that than with other women who understand exactly where you are and how you're feeling. So that's just awesome. So how can people get enrolled or what I say? enlisted is what I said before.
I like that.
Investher and get a hold of that summit so that they can be a part of that on
Yeah.
June 12th. How do they do that again?
Scott, would you mind putting up that
There it is.
URL? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it's just our website, the real estate investor, HER.com. And in the right-hand corner, you'll see virtual summit. Also on there, you can go to meetup.com and learn about all the meetups that we have. And obviously our Facebook community is a private group. We have about 3,000 women in the group, just a great group of women now. And, you're welcome to just go to Facebook and, type in Investher community, the real estate Investher, and you'll find it there as well.
That's awesome.
Well, I think being virtual is going to surprise you of how much more people are going to be involved in it.
Your reach is so much greater.
I've been attending the Gerasi law firms conferences for years. And we typically have 50, 60 people in each little speaking room.
Something like
typically.
that. Yeah.
Well, they just had to do a virtual summit. They had more than 100 in every single class. Now, how engaged were they? Because, they may be on there, but they also probably have kids running around in the back and trying to do other work.
Or you turn it on while you're trying to hit emails
Right.
too,
So
right?
my advice
Like
to
you
those
do.
that are attending, don't have a phone in the room with
Pay
you. Shut the
attention.
door behind you.
Yeah.
And pay attention to what's going on.
For
because
sure.
There's a lot of stuff that you miss, and take notes.
That's right.
Even though you're getting recordings.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Liz, we really want to thank you so much for joining us on this show. You're going to join us again at 1:05. Is that the
Yes.
time that it starts?
Officially.
At 1:05 with other women as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to get a little more in depth about women in general and business and how we got started and just all that good stuff. So we thank you so much. That it's been absolutely awesome. And I can't wait to get into the summit and see how it goes. I know it'll
Yeah.
do really, really well.
Well, and thank you so much for having me on. This is an absolute pleasure. So the three of you, thank you so much, and excited to, hopefully share a little bit of knowledge here and help a lot of women.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
it's a pleasure now, but wait till you spend another 45 minutes with us.
You might change your mind. Yeah.
Oh, we had dinner together at the
That's right.
yeah, we enjoyed each other's company. You guys are great. So
Again, audience, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions about us, carolinahardmoney.com. If you're a borrower, press the borrower tab. If you're an investor, press the investor tab. And what I mean by
Good
investor
clues.
is not someone that is building a house. Investor means you're investing your money.
Yes. Lender investor.
Please don't forget to subscribe and share and like and all that good stuff.
All that
And,
millennial stuff.
we'll see you guys in about 15 minutes on the 1 o'clock show if you want to tune in.
Thanks so much.
Have a great day.